Good day, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. My name is Paul Butler, and I represent the people of Kentucky. Breonna Taylor was 26 years old. She was an emergency room technician, and she worked 2 jobs. Breonna had big plans for the future. She was studying to be a registered nurse. She said 2020 was going to be her year. Instead, March 13th, 2020 was the last day of her short life. 3 police officers burst into her home, fired 20 bullets, and killed Breonna. The men who fired all those bullets are in this courtroom today. They are former Sergeant Rhett Harkinson, Detective Jonathan Mattingly, and Detective Miles Cosgrove. They don't deserve the honor of their badges. For Breonna and her boyfriend, Kenneth, it was a typical Thursday evening. Breonna had worked a late shift, and when she got home, she and Kenneth curled up in bed to watch a movie. Then they drifted off to sleep. It was midnight when they hear a loud banging on the front door. They jump out of bed, throw on some clothes, and approach the door. They're yelling, "Who is it? Who is it?" But there's no answer. Kenneth was licensed to carry a gun. He never used it, but that's why many Americans have legal guns, to defend their homes against intruders. Kenneth and Breonna carefully approached the front door. Who was it? Who was it? There's no answer until all of a sudden the door is ripped off of its hinges and 3 men in jeans burst into the home. Kenneth points his gun towards the ground and fires a warning shot, but the bullet accidentally hits one of the officers in the leg, and that's when the police fire down. The police shoot blindly. Bullets land in the living room and the dining room and the kitchen and the hallway and the bathroom and Breonna's bedroom and Breonna's sister's bedroom and at the apartment next door where 3 people live, including a young child. When the officers are finished, they leave the apartment. Breonna is on the floor in a puddle of blood. She didn't receive any medical attention for over 20 minutes, and by then it was too late. These men are now charged with 3 crimes: second-degree manslaughter, reckless homicide, and complicity, which means they aided each other in the killing of Breonna Taylor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you must convict of second-degree manslaughter if you find that these men disregarded a substantial risk that when you shoot up an apartment complex that you're going to hurt innocent people. The evidence will show that these 3 officers knew that when they blindly fired 20 bullets into 8 different rooms in 2 different apartments, they knew that there was a big chance that innocent people would be harmed. Sergeant Hankinson wasn't even in the apartment when he fired his gun. He was shooting through a patio door that was closed and covered. He couldn't see who or what he was shooting. His own boss, the chief of police, said that Hankinson displayed, and I'm quoting, extreme indifference to human life. The same logic applies to those other 2 killer cops. They were mad that one of them had been shot in the leg, and they were going to get their revenge, and they didn't care who got shot. Think about this. Breonna was unarmed. She posed no threat to anyone, and the cops shot her 5 times. Kenneth, who had a weapon, he wasn't shot once. How could these trained police officers shooting over and over and over fail to hit the target? Because they were firing at random willy-nilly. They didn't care who got shot. This was about revenge, not justice. The second charge is reckless homicide. It means whether these cops knew, they should have known, that anybody with common sense would know that if you shoot 20 times blindly into 2 apartments where people live, that there's a big risk that innocent people are going to be hurt. Now, the defense is going to make a big deal about something called a no-knock warrant. Don't let them hoodwink you. When cops are executing a search warrant, they're required to do 2 things. First, knock on the door, and second, announce that they are officers. The reason cops are required to announce is because when someone's knocking on your door in the middle of the night, you need to know it's the police. But sometimes the cops can get a no-knock warrant, which means they don't have to knock and announce if it's a dangerous situation. We know that the cops were executing 5 search warrants that night, and they said they didn't need a no-knock warrant for Breonna because she posed no threat. But what they did was the worst of all. It was the most reckless. They knock, but they didn't announce. They shoot up the house, and then you'll hear after they leave, Ken calls 911, and he thinks there's been a home invasion. He has no idea that the 3 men who had just killed Breonna were police officers. The defense is also going to try to get you confused about self-defense. They will say because Ken fired that warning shot and it accidentally hit a police officer in the leg, that these cops had the right to fire back. But the judge is going to tell you that the law in Kentucky is you can't use a gun in self-defense if that puts innocent people in danger. In other words, if somebody shoots you in the leg, you can't close your eyes and fire 20 bullets all around an apartment trying to kill some random person that you can't even see. The cops actually ran out of bullets and they had to stop and reload. At one point, a neighbor calls 911 and says she hears gunshots. 68 seconds later in that 911 call, you can still hear those cops firing those bullets. That's not self-defense. That's second-degree manslaughter. That's reckless homicide. Afterwards, the police filled out a police report that was full of lies. They had the nerve to say that Breonna had not been hurt when she was pronounced dead on the scene. They had the nerve to say that they'd entered the house peacefully when actually they'd broken down the door with a battering ram. Ask yourselves, why the cover-up? There have been cases of police officers in the news, and we've all seen videos. You'll hear testimony that for other searches, these cops use cameras, but there's no video of the killing of Breonna Taylor. There's a legal term for why these 3 men wrote a police report full of lies. There's a legal term for why these men did not use their cameras when they killed Breonna Taylor. That term is called consciousness of guilt. These officers didn't want anybody to see what they were doing. They were going to send a message to the people in Breonna's neighborhood that if one person shoots a cop in the leg, anybody within firing range is going to pay. They knew it was wrong, but they thought they could get away with it. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please don't let these 3 killers get away with manslaughter. Please don't let these 3 killers get away with reckless homicide. I am confident that after you hear all of the evidence in this case, you will find that these 3 killer cops are not above the law. I am confident that you will do justice for Breonna Taylor.